Well, it's been a tumultuous week in politics, much of it, of course, dominated by the impact of the war in Iran. We've seen petrol prices up. Air New Zealand has raised its prices. It's rethinking its already pretty gloomy financial outlook and may need to cut routes. Joining us now is our political panel for the week. We have Nationals' Paul Goldsmith in for Nicola Willis today and Labour's Carmel Sepuloni. Good morning to both of you.
Morning, Ingrid.
Paul, we'll start with you. Will this war derail our economic recovery? How worried are you?
Well, obviously we're all very concerned about what's going on. Obviously we can't control the timing and the extent of it. The good news is that the New Zealand economy is much stronger than it was a couple of years ago, and we've got some buffer. All the indications from Treasury just even last week was that we were on track for 3% growth. So there's momentum in the economy. If this is short duration, I think we'll carry on. But obviously we're concerned about how long it does so.
Wasn't Treasury also warning that GDP growth could be lower than forecast and inflation could be 0.5% to 1% higher?
No. Well, yeah, what it shows was that the economy has been rebounding. It's been a very long period of slow growth for the New Zealand economy, and people have been, ultimately, and we'll come on to the topic of COVID and the response to that, there's been a long hangover from the very big spending that we had during that period and the higher interest rates and the slow economy that followed from that. We've been pulling out of that, and the good news is that everywhere you look across the economy, there are signs of optimism. I listened to your interview with Briscoe's and the sense that people are starting to spend and feel more confidence has been flowing through this year. And then, of course, we've got to deal with these global events, and we hope that they're resolved as swiftly as possible.
Carmel, I might go to you here. Do you think everywhere you look there are signs of recovery and optimism?
Absolutely not. And I think the average New Zealander is not feeling very optimistic at the moment. The cost of living is still hitting people very hard. And I think they find it really difficult when they hear the government saying things like the economy is performing well, because that is not the reality of their everyday lives. In terms of what's happening overseas, well, what we know is that that's going to probably further exacerbate the issues and the challenges that people are facing with the cost of living. And so we're really concerned about New Zealanders right now. And I think that they're really nervous, not just about what's happening internationally, but even without those external factors, the fact that we haven't seen the recovery that the government had promised going into the last election.
Well, the external factors are a big factor here, though, right? And they are not the government's fault, the current government's fault. So you would have to deal with those economic realities as well.
Yeah.
What could you do?
No, that's absolutely right. And so we're not blaming the government for the external factors, but we are blaming them for some of the decisions that they've made here. I mean, debt is higher because of the spending under this government and the decisions like tax cuts that we're told were unaffordable, like the $2.9 billion that they gave to landlords as tax breaks. And so, there are decisions that this government has made. There are external factors that, of course, are not the government's fault, but they will further exacerbate the pain and the suffering and the challenges that New Zealanders are facing with the cost of living.
Paul, it's a ministerial group set up. They're going to meet today, I understand, to figure out what levers to pull and when. I mean, what are the options for you?
Well, look, I mean, how long this goes on for is anybody's guess at the moment, and so that's why we'll be monitoring that very carefully. But the only thing we can control is how well we're organised, managing things currently, and so that's why it's been so important over the last 2 years to start to get inflation under control, get some growth back, and have a path back to surplus. And I mean, it is very rich for Carmel to talk about the levels of debt. We're right in the middle of this COVID inquiry and looking back at the $60 billion of spending that the previous government did during that.
Debt is higher now, Paul, and we're going through a pandemic right now.
Well, I know, because you wouldn't have supported us slamming the brakes entirely on spending on day one of our government. And so what we've been doing is trying to work our way slowly to get back towards a surplus in a a careful manner that doesn't turn everybody's lives upside down. But the scale of the challenge that we faced 2 years ago in terms of the massive structural deficits that we inherited, the huge pressure on spending, and the everywhere you looked, there were things that people had taken for granted that weren't actually in the budget, all these budget cliffs like for the Farm Act funding and things. So we've had big challenges to get that round. The good news is that we've made good progress, and so we're in a stronger position now to face the challenges that we have internationally than we would have been 2 years ago.
That Kiwis are frankly quite sick of the government blaming the previous government. I mean, they've made some decisions off their own back. And they need to take responsibility.
Let's talk about one of those decisions, and if we can keep it brief, Paul. LNG up 70% in places. Is it still the right option for a backup power, or a timely reminder we should be pivoting away from importing fossil fuels?
Well, of course. I mean, obviously, we want to have as much generation of energy in New Zealand as we can, and we've got one of the highest levels of renewable energy in the world in terms of our electricity production. The challenge is, of course, that if we have a dry year...
I'm just saying, we're seeing the volatility of LNG here. That's the option you're going with. Is it the right one in light of what we've seen over the past 10 days?
We believe it's an important part of the mix. Of course, we're only doing it because of the oil and gas ban and the pressure that put on the system, but we think it's part of the mix. Our primary response, of course, has been to really focus on fast-track legislation so it's faster and cheaper to build renewable energy, and I think that's the most important thing we've done in terms of increasing the development of new energy through wind farms and solar and so forth by making it easier to get that done in a faster manner. So that's part of the mix as well. And so we've got to pull every lever, but the LNG is part of the overall equation in terms of taking those peaks out of the system, which over time will lead to lower energy costs for people in New Zealand. That's important.
Carmel, let's talk about Air New Zealand. How worried are you about Air New Zealand? Should the government step in at some point? What are the options here? I mean, Air New Zealand gets slammed, right, because they get accused of charging too much, and then when they don't make enough, they also get slammed.
Yeah, the government would have been presented with all of the options, if not yet, then I'm sure that they will be in the coming days or weeks, and they need to keep all of those options on the table. We're not given that information, so it's very difficult for us to be able to make any determination with respect to what could be done to support Air New Zealand. But the government need to make sure that all of those options are kept on the table and that they deliberate very carefully over whatever options they're presented with. What
are the options you've been presented with, Paul, if any?
Oh, well, no, I haven't seen particular issues at the moment. I mean, obviously, Air New Zealand, like any business, needs to be focusing on its cost structure. There are some things that it can't control, and international fuel prices obviously are in that category. There are other things that it can control, and we'd expect that business to be as focused as it can on delivering the best performance for its customers. And so, they're in a challenging environment. All the airlines all around the world are facing a challenging environment as well. So, yeah, it's a tough business to be in, and we just trust in the capability of the management team to do a good job there.
Okay, this COVID inquiry, what did we learn, Paul, from the second inquiry? Are we better prepared now or as a result of that inquiry?
Well, in essence, I think what has been replayed to us is what most people, particularly Aucklanders such as myself, had concluded, was that they started off very well. The previous government did a good job, but they kept us locked down for too long. They overcooked the stimulus and the spending. And most importantly, when the crisis had passed, they kept on spending full bore. And as a result of that, we're dealing with the consequences down the line.
But we knew all that, right, didn't we?
Well, it's important to be reminded because...
Is it though? Is it to spend the money to be reminded of what we knew?
It is one of the...
It just pretty much reiterated so many of the findings that came out in the first inquiry. And I think number one thing here is that, again, the finding is that our response was strong. Yes, there were some things that could have been done differently or better. But we saved lives and we saved livelihoods. And comparably, compared to other countries with regards to their response, New Zealand did very well. Other things that we can take away and learn from this, certainly. And I'd like to know from the government, how these inquiries are going to help them and help us be better prepared for any future pandemics.
Well, I mean, that's the fundamental point, and that is that because they so overcooked the spending and massively increased our debt, that'll take generations to repay. We are in a worse
that's not what
position.
The inquiry wasn't talking about that. It was talking about how to be better prepared in future with things like having a plan, for example, sharing data, and being more nimble around it.
Yeah, and all that stuff is important. And the point is that the CODA event was one of the most significant events in our recent history and our economic history, and so it is absolutely appropriate to really look into the detail and learn from it. So
and Carmel, how damaging is this for Labour with Auckland voters? Because again, it lays out that the restrictions in Auckland too harsh, too long, and as it turns out, not in line with the health advice, the written form of the health advice. How damaging is that?
That's a really
Very
important point, Ingrid, in terms of the written advice. You know, the government knows this, but have deliberately chosen to not speak to this issue.
Well, it was how it was interpreted in the inquiry, wasn't it?
Well, yes, that's the case. But what actually happened was that the written advice was presented, and then on the day that Ashley presented to Cabinet, he advised verbally that there should be an extension, that it should go on for further. Yeah. Now, that advice was reiterated in the stand-up, in the media stand-up, so it's certainly on record. So there's not a situation here where our government ignored advice. We absolutely took seriously the advice that was put in front of us. Do I think that the Auckland lockdown went on too long? I certainly felt it because I was an Auckland MP just like Paul.
It certainly
did. Did you say that at the time?
No.
I did say it at the time, but we were taking advice
from... Who'd you say it
to? Well, I was a member of Cabinet, so, and we've also said it afterwards, but we were taking the advice from the experts, and that was the advice.
So, sorry, what did you say to Cabinet, and what was the result of that?
Oh, it certainly felt like it was dragging on.
And you told your Cabinet colleagues and they ignored you?
Look,
no, we were taking the advice from the experts.
No, well, the advice is that you carried on longer than the advice indicated. No, and that there was a mindset of just keeping...
happened, Paul.
It was just ultra-cautiousness that kept us locked down for too long, and Auckland really suffered the consequences. Now, as a result of that, New Zealand has made the right decision 2 years ago to throw the government out.
We need to...
We've got a question about what's going to happen in November, because we don't want to come back to the same mob that got us into the mess in the first place.
We need to just move on really quickly. Hey, Wellington mayors have written to the Prime Minister saying that the move-on orders aren't welcome in their region. Paul, are you swayed by that? They want to meet with you and discuss it. Will that happen?
Well, I'm very happy to meet with them, but look, I don't agree with their analysis. I mean, if the only thing we were doing to deal with rough sleepers and antisocial behaviour in our city was move-on orders, then they'd have a point. But of course, that is not the only thing we're doing. The government, on behalf of New Zealanders, who have always been very concerned about the needs of those who are having a difficult time, we have one of the most generous welfare systems in the world. We have enormous sums spent on housing projects and a host of programs available to help those who want that help.
And a growing number of homeless in some cities. Hey, I'm sorry, we do need to leave it.
We've got lots of tools to help people, and we also need to have a few tools to reclaim our streets for the enjoyment of people who live there and work there.
Great. Well, keep us posted on how that meeting goes. We do need to leave it there. I appreciate both of your time, though. As always, National's Paul Goldsmith was in for Nicola Willis today, and we had Labour's Carmel Sepuloni. Thanks to both of you.